the Zero Waste Working Group established under Executive Order 2019-28. Today marks the start of an important effort to tackle waste management challenges and
I'm
move
sorry,
Guam
Lola,
from...
may you pause? The live stream is still loading.
Oh,
Give me
okay.
a few seconds.
Zero Waste Working Group.
Now you may begin.
Okay. Buenas, everyone. My name is Lola Leon Guerrero, Director of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Zero Waste Working Group established under Executive Order 2019-28. Today marks the start of an important effort to tackle waste management challenges and move forward towards a zero waste future. I am pleased to introduce the First Gentleman, Jeff Cook, Chairman of the Zero Waste Working Group. His leadership and commitment to this cause have brought us together to take meaningful steps to this vital initiative. The chairman has approved an agenda to guide our work today. Today's agenda includes introductions, a review of the Zero Waste Initiative contract, administrative tasks and deliverables, and next step to guide our future efforts. This is a key moment to establish a solid foundation for achieving zero waste, and I am confident in what we can accomplish together. Thank you for being here and committing to this important work. Please also note, BSP has contracted Anitin Oceana to provide professional and technical support to the chairman and the Zero Waste Working Group members in moving the 2023 Guam Zero Waste Master Plan forward. Anitin Oceana representative is Ms. Conchita Taitano. Ms. Taitano brings valuable expertise in waste management and sustainability, providing technical and professional support to ensure our success. And now, with further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to invite Chairman Jeff Cook to officially commence this critical effort. Please join me in warmly welcoming Jeff Cook.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to welcome everybody to the Zero Waste Working Group meeting. I want to thank you for taking the time in your very busy schedules to attend today's meeting. I was asked to make a short introduction, and I will keep it very short. As we work toward a waste-free Guam, meetings such as this are an integral part of the group's work by keeping the members informed of its plans, of the group's plans and progress, period. I'm going to be turning the meeting over to Conchita Taitano to chair the meeting. And I ask you all to be involved and continue to be involved for the good of the island. And I'll turn the floor to Conchita. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, First Gentleman, and also thank you, Director Leon Guerrero, for this opportunity. Now, before we begin, I think this is a good time to explain to the group and our listeners on why we're having this meeting, who are the key members, and really what is our purpose. So Lola Leon Guerrero mentioned the Executive Order 2019-28, which established the Zero Waste Working Group back in December 2019. The purpose of the group is to develop, make recommendations for the adoption of and oversee the implementation of Guam's Zero Waste Master Plan. And this includes developing outreach and education components to raise public awareness, share knowledge, and transfer information to the community and the broader Pacific region. That is quoted from that executive order. Now, the leadership and membership, the group is chaired by the First Gentleman of Guam, and the members include Guam EPA, the Guam Environmental Protection Agency, the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, the Port Authority of Guam, and Department of Public Works. And on that note, I think this is a good opportunity for the representatives to introduce themselves and where they work. I know Glenn is there, so can we start with Glenn?
Sure. Half a day, First Gentleman. My name is Glenn Nicholas. I'm the acting deputy for Guam EPA. And acting airline division administrator and solid waste program manager. We're definitely very proud to be a part of this working group to try and get our zero waste initiatives in place. And I'm looking forward to hearing the way forward. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And if we could go ahead and have the folks from the Bureau of Statistics and Plans introduce themselves.
Half a day, everyone. Lola Leon Guerrero, Director of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Welcome.
Very good. And do we have representatives from the port or from DPW online at this time? If not, that's
Hi.
okay. They're probably taking some time to get online, but we will move forward.
Hi,
So-
hi, good morning. Good
Oh,
morning, this is Joe. Hi, good morning.
Hi.
This is Joe Havalana, Chief Planner of the Port Authority. We also have my staff that are online, and I'd like them to introduce themselves.
Good morning. This is Donna Acosta with the Planning Division at the Port. Hi, good morning. My name is Angela Mendiola. I'm also with planning at the Port Authority of Guam. Franquez, I'm also with the Planning Division here at the Port.
And Conchita, I think we have Donna Herrera with DPW on the call.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, yes, I'm here. I'm sitting in behalf of the director from DPW.
Welcome. Welcome to the port. Welcome to DPW. We have a full complement. Lola mentioned who I am, and I represent Anitin Oceania, which is a 501c3 organization registered on Guam. We're led by 4 Chamorro women. One is a professor at the University of Guam. One is a full-time professor at UCLA, and the other is a CPA. So Lola mentioned the contract between, and at this point, could I please have the members of the sub-consultants for Anitin to introduce themselves? If we can start with Julie Carver.
Half a day, everybody. My name is Julie Carver, and I'm the founding principal of Congruent Environmental Strategies, a woman-owned small business providing environmental consulting services. I know almost, I believe everybody on this call. It's nice to be here with you. My expertise is in developing and implementing sustainable development programs focused on circular economy and zero waste solutions, and integrating sustainable development goals into business practices and programs. I'm a registered professional engineer with over 35 years of worldwide experience, including throughout Micronesia. I was the primary author of Guam's 2013 Zero Waste Plan. I worked with Guam EPA from 2018 to 2022 on their zero waste and sustainable materials management program implementation. And I was one of the primary authors of the recently published 2023 Guam Zero Waste Master Plan, and the Port Authority of Guam's recently published Zero Waste Approach, which was included in their sustainability plan. I've also worked on zero waste plans for other islands throughout Micronesia, most recently for Tinian. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Julie. The next person, David Bell from
Hi.
Praxis.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is David. I think most of you know me. I'm here to support the chairman, Conchita and Julie in their efforts, and my focus is on strategic communications, public affairs, and sustainability. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, David. And this is important because for the members of the Zero Waste Working Group, you'll probably be receiving a call from either David Bell, Julie Carver, or myself. We have a deadline to complete this work, and that is July 15th, I believe, of this year. So let's move on to the second item, which is the overview of the Zero Waste Initiative contract. We've done a little bit of the background. That's why I thought it was really important for everyone to hear about or to listen, and just to remind them about the executive order that was created back in December of 2019. and why where we are today. So with this contract that and Ethan has with BSP, they have the responsibility of supporting the Zero Waste Working Group through various initiatives, and the key responsibilities, and this is in the contract, which is to coordinate outreach and public education, review zero waste rules and regulations, draft legislation for zero waste initiatives, facilitate joint projects and explore funding opportunities. And then finally, develop recommendations for the Guam Zero Waste Master Plan. And if I could go back to the bullet on facilitating joint projects and exploring funding opportunities, to the approval of BSP and the First Gentleman, we did submit a grant application back in November of last year. Everything is held in abeyance. It is a community-based grant. Where this could be in the future, we don't know, but that is one thing that we've done. We also have an outline for the zero waste, for the outreach and public education components that we will present to BSP first for their approval on what the deliverables will be, and that will follow up with discussions or confirmation on the priorities from the other members of the Zero Waste Working Group. Needless to say, everything that we do is transparent, and we make sure that whatever is discussed with each of the members is made available through email. And let's see. So we need to complete our work by July 16, 2025. And as I mentioned, Julie, David, and I will be contacting the members to gather information, and more importantly, what are your thoughts on the next steps with respect to Guam Zero Waste Master Plan? Like I said, emails memorializing discussions with you will be shared with all members. All work done will be made available online, and this is part of the to-dos, is to develop a zero waste page that will be housed with the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. We are aware that Guam EPA has a dedicated page on their website. The page we will be creating intends to complement what Guam EPA has already. We won't see a duplication of efforts. I just want to make sure that's very clear. And it looks like, so I finished the overview, the review of the administrative task. Now I can go into the task for administrative, which is, supporting the Zero Waste Working Group. Like similar to this meeting, everything that's done is recorded. There will be a summary of what was discussed in this meeting that will be made available online and via email and on the website or the web page for Zero Waste. In terms of outreach and education, we have a proposal, as I mentioned before, that will be provided first to BSP for approval. And then shared with the other members for their input. And that includes, that's the strategy and schedule. We're looking at branding, logos, signages, infographics, and fact sheets, visual images, auditory segments, videos, PSAs and print ads, multilingual translations if available, if possible. Of course, we talked about the website, marketing, promotional materials, as well as we will be available to present at local and regional venues as directed by BSP. Now, I know talking to, just for the outreach and education, there is something that's coming up, and I'll ask David to talk a little bit about the International Zero Waste Day. Dave?
Hi, it just so happens, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, it just so
Yes,
happens that today, the 25th, is International Zero Waste Day, United Nations. And so we're hoping to kind of do a soft kickoff of some social media, and it will lead into Earth Day next month in April. So we hope to see kind of a soft movement towards a larger crescendo as we move towards Earth Day. And I'll be sharing with you some of the promotional material and some of the strategies and getting some feedback on how you think we should capture that opportunity coming up in April. Thanks.
Thank you for that, David. And if possible, perhaps all of the members of the Zero Waste Working Group, I know you have your website, and there's an opportunity for us to share what's developed by Mr. Bell and his group on your sites. That would be most helpful. Obviously, we'll want to also highlight some of the work you're going to be doing for Earth Day, and if you're doing something for the International Zero Waste Day. Okay. And at this point, for outreach and education, did I miss anything, David, that I should have mentioned?
No, I think you're good.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, because
It's a good overview.
Very good. And rules and regulations, that is a task. The task is to develop develop or draft rules and regulations, obtain public input, and let's see, provide comments to zero waste related legislation. So for example, if Guam EPA had a piece of legislation, draft legislation, they would like BSP to review, then BSP would contact us and we will review it for them. But if you can let us know in advance, that would be great. So that way we get all the approvals before we move forward. Okay. The other one is pursuing multi-sectoral partnerships. One of the community partnerships that I know Guam EPA started was that relationship between the Hyatt Hotel, Salvation Army, and the Department of Public Health and Social Services, where food that was not consumed, food that is still excellent, that was still in the trays, that's never been opened, were donated to Salvation Army. I always like to mention this again, that public health is a partner. So we needed to, the Hyatt needed to pass the very stringent requirements of public health before they could give the okay and have that available to Salvation Army, to make this available to individuals who need food, oh, there's a term for it that skips my mind. but you understand that it's for the community who are in need of nutrition. Okay. And let's see, exploring funding opportunities. As I mentioned before, back in November, on behalf of BSP, Anita prepared the technical information for them, and BSP submitted the application online to US EPA. As I understand it, everything is put on hold, even though initially EPA would be reviewing all of the applications that were submitted in November. They would be submitting throughout the spring, and there's a change in direction, and we haven't heard back yet. But moving forward, and there's an opportunity from your respective departments or agencies for us to pursue to promote zero waste in the community. Could you please let BSP know? And we will work with you. Again, everything has to be approved by BSP. Anita is willing to do the work, but we need to make sure that our boss Lola approves everything first. Let's see. And then implementation and initiatives of the Guam Zero Waste Master Plan. What Anita will do is summarize the initiatives, recommend projects based on surveys, and what the Guam Zero Waste Working Group prefers. And lastly, provide recommendations to BSP for focused feasibility studies if needed, and projects that support the initiatives. And on that note, if I could ask my colleagues, Julie and David, if I've missed anything that I should have mentioned.
Sounds good to me. We've got 12 zero waste initiatives, planning to deploy those in phases over the next 20 years. There's a lot of work to do.
And everything it's time and money. We do have a limited time, and July 15th is the deadline for us. And the contract amount is, we're also, we also have to fine tune all of our work output based on the contract. And the term that I was trying to, that I had slipped my mind regarding Salvation Army is that providing nutrition to individuals who are food insecure. Thank you for that. I apologize, a bit delayed on the brain here. David, did I miss anything else? And if nothing, then could I please at least go around, go back to the members of the Zero Waste Working Group to at least share, I don't know, in 5 minutes or so, you know, your thoughts on what you would like to see, or perhaps share what you've done so far. And maybe there's a next step after that. And if we could start with maybe Department of Public Works. If there's anything you'd like to share with the group.
Hi, sorry. Unfortunately, I don't have anything. Again, I was just sitting in for the director. He is currently at an appointment, but I will certainly remind him to share it if he does have anything.
Right, and I want to thank DPW. I worked a couple of hats, but maybe Julie, if you could explain some of the existing partnerships already between the Port Authority of Guam and DPW, and I know everything is held in abeyance right now with the grant application.
Back in November, working with the port, working with DPW, submitted a grant application to the Federal Highway Administration to fund the development of a low carbon transportation materials implementation plan, and also to fund the construction of a roadway on Guam. As Conchita mentioned, Joe, you might have more information than I do at this point. I know you've been in contact with FHWA, but I believe everything is in abeyance based on the change in direction in the administrations. But Joe Havilana?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there
I can hear
anything
you.
new to report? Is there anything new to report on that?
Well, like you mentioned, we did submit the grant application, and right now we haven't heard anything from FHWA, although there's some move on their end to try to get that grant application and overall program to move forward. But at this time, there's nothing. I do want to share, the ports, because Conchita, you mentioned about, what we're doing with regards to net zero emissions and net zero waste. FYI for the group, the port submitted an application to the Clean Ports Program. And basically what it is it's the Net Zero Emission Strategy Update and Implementation Plan. How did this all come about? We initially had a grant application to OLDCC, which is to fund our owner agent engineer WSP. So one of the initiatives that came up was actually an initiative that Conchita had recommended, which is resiliency and of course sustainability, right? So in that grant application, and I'm talking about the OLDCC one, we actually had a net zero emissions and a net zero waste strategy. The grant funded WSP and Jacobs put that together. We did scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions that was conducted. That was completed. And as a result of that, we went forward with the next step on the Clean Ports Program project. So the Clean Ports Program project basically looked at the implementation portion of it. We got the plan, we got the strategy, now we're moving forward with it. And the the plan itself calls for now scope 3, mobile emission strategy, net zero emission strategy update to the initial one, a workforce development plan, resiliency study, and the net zero implementation plan. So right now we're working with WSP and Jacobs in finalizing task order 16. We've been back and forth with that. There's some questions that that Conchita wanted me to touch base with Trina and Danielle with the Clean Ports program. And they have provided the response, which I will provide an update to Conchita with regards to her question. But basically, with regards to what the port is doing in line with the overall Guam initiative, we're moving forward with our next steps and action items to execute our project.
Thanks, Joe. That's an excellent segue for what were the work on the zero waste component. I know that one of the things for zero waste was at the Port Authority of Guam is to essentially do a very basic audit on what the port generates. And then there was another big piece, if you could elaborate to the group on the res recycling.
Yes. Yeah, so the res actually we identified one is the strategic initiatives, what we were targeting, the target wastes, and of course our 5-year blueprint, right? We are navigation towards a zero waste future, and that included identifying different sites for the res, and we've actually identified a few. And it's now just making sure that we do the initial site selection process. We've identified the sites. We're going to be doing initial site screening and secondary site screening, and then eventually determine and finalize those particular sections or sites that will be selected.
Very good. Well, just a little background, the Recycling Enterprise Zone was created by law at least 20 years ago. And it identified the port, required the port to identify a site to support recycling around the island. And so with the funding from OLDCC, as Joe mentioned, the part of the work was to identify potential locations. There is a report, right, Joe? And then how can folks, the findings from this from the study, the audit, how can listeners or the other members get a hold of that, at least a summary? We know the document is like what, 150 pages?
In fact,
a big document, but there's a summary.
Yes. In fact, is it possible if I can share my screen so they can see where those initial site selection? Is that okay? Let me see here.
Yeah. So Esther's checking that. I don't touch
Okay.
computers.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how we can be able
go
to
ahead.
share.
Yeah, go ahead. She stopped sharing from our end.
Okay, let's see here. Where is the share? Okay, here, share.
Oh, there we go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the initial site selection and assessment that we actually WSP Jacobs and the planning team had identified. If you can take a look at the picture there, the slide, there's site 1, which is a heavily vegetated PAG property along along Route 1 as you go towards Polaris Point. And then site 2, of course, you go further down. But with regards to on-site areas for the port, you have the Old Hawaiian Rock that's at site 3, the future site at F7, and then you got the chassis lot, and then outside the port you have areas at Polaris Point. Polaris Point. There's Matchin that's there, the Smith Bridge, and the vacant lot in that area. So those are just potential sites. This is the initial site selection. Of course, we're going to be doing further screening to make sure that that those are going to be feasible sites for the different wastes that we've identified.
Thank you, Joe. I think there may be a slide before that, so I want to share with everyone about how, there you go. the site selection process, because it's extensive. You know, there was a lot of scientific data gathering work that was done before we arrived at just the initial phase. There was actually more sites, right? But this
Yes.
is what came out first. And if you could go ahead, maybe speak about that, or Julie, did you want to talk a little bit about that? I yield to either you or Joe.
I yield to Julie.
Okay. Happy to talk about it.
Too much.
As Joe mentioned, we developed a zero waste approach for the port's recently published sustainability plan. And there are 5 primary projects in that zero waste approach blueprint to conduct over the next 5 years. And one of the very first things we looked at was establishing a recycling enterprise zone on port property, which was legislatively mandated about 20 years ago. I can't remember the exact date. And we went through a rigorous process to screen a number of different sites. The Jacobs team was out on site for 2 weeks back in April. And we went through a number of sites with Conchita, port employees, and also David Bell. And then we developed a screening criteria that included screening against lead criteria. I'm gonna be like Conchita here.
Yeah. Could you go to the next slide? Because you have that process. Joe?
Yes.
That one?
Mm-hmm.
So we
Is that the
established site selection criteria, and then using LEED, some different site screening processes. We developed
Okay,
a
back up a little bit.
shortlist
Joe, okay, this is the one, remember that's you have the circle?
with
where
the
you have
funnels.
LEED. You remember there was a big circle on that? Keep going. Keep going.
Zero
Yeah.
waste? Is this on it?
Nope.
Okay,
No,
this is emissions
No,
already.
go, I'm sorry, go back. It's backwards. It's where they, you know, where you have the lead
Right
certi-
there.
that one, the res criteria.
one.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not being clear.
So we went through a number of global site selection criteria for establishing types of facilities like the Recycling Enterprise Zone. We used something Envision, which is a global process. We used some of the LEED criteria. We used US EPA's EJ Screen process, Green Marine for creating and developing sustainable port properties, and then Wedge. We took all of those different criteria and funneled them down into what was really relevant and appropriate for Guam, what fit best for Guam, and did an initial site screening, then a secondary site screening, came up with a short list of, I think we ended up with 3 sites. And Conchita, you can probably better speak to where the port is with adopting the final site than I can.
Right, and I can tell you from the port side, and Joe, please help me out on this one, is right now, as I heard it, is that it's still going through additional screening internally at the Port Authority of Guam. Is that a fair statement, Joe?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very good.
But I think the establishment of a recycling enterprise zone will be a real catalyst for Guam to establish a centralized processing area that can help free up the backlog of materials that are located in our recyclers' yards, that are stockpiled in other locations, DPW's yards, and et cetera. It's meant to facilitate and really launch many of the Guam Zero Waste Master Plan initiatives. So it's a really important initiative within the port's blueprint.
Right.
That's correct.
And on
Yes.
that note, you know, thank you for that, Julie, but this is a good opportunity to weave in the work that Glenn St. Nicholas has been doing with respect to the recyclers, and I'm trying to circle back and dovetail this back to what Guam EPA has seen and done, what the port can do, which is establish an area. This is the recycling enterprise zone for the recyclers to bring their processed materials containerized and all, and at least put it there temporarily waiting for shipment. Because, Glenn, if you could just, share maybe a little bit on the status of the recycling facilities and their need for to move, maybe find another place for their processed materials, because they have limited space. Glenn?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just going off what Conchita had just mentioned, a lot of these recycling facilities, they're limited in space, and when they come to a point where they exceed their storage capacity, they basically just stop accepting certain waste streams until such a time that they can get those shipping containers off their properties and all the materials off and shipped off island. So that's one of the main things that I think would benefit utilizing the recycling enterprise zone. But I know at the same time, within the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of development down at the port for that, the breakwater. So that might occupy a lot of the space that is earmarked for the recycling enterprise zone. And I think maybe Conchita has more visibility on that, or even Joe from the Guam Port Authority to speak on that. But that's just one of the concerns that I have, is that within the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of development, a lot of moving parts, a lot of, looking for large spaces to basically redevelop and take care of the breakwater that's out there. But, I just wanted to ask the working group, on the zero waste initiatives, on the prioritization of the zero waste tasks. On the Guam Zero Waste Master Plan, they identify zero waste initiatives and they plan it out from 2023 to 2040. And it's broken down to phase 3 to phase 6. Phase 6 is the used oil recycling portion of it. And, I kind of like to do just a quick brief on, those initiatives. So for the Illegal Dumping and Litter Control Act, I know that it started in 2023 and we're looking at all the way to 2026. But we amended the 10 GCA Chapter 51, Article 2, which is the Litter Control Act, a number of times already for the enforcement component, adding different fee schedules and different volumes of waste that is issued on public and private property for solid waste violations. On the mandatory residential island-wide collection, there was a second amendment to the bill, Bill 30-38, that we had to provide testimony in support of the mandatory residential island-wide collection portion. So that is in place as well. We just did that like last week is when they had that testimony to revisit the whole mandatory residential island-wide collection portion. It puts a lot of responsibility on Guam Solid Waste Authority. And I know that in the past, when the bill was first introduced, it was, it didn't pass because of issues with funding low to no income families and how that would work out. So this next one, they kind of address certain components of that. Just waiting to see if it's going to pass or not. The next one is the mandatory commercial food waste and organics composting. So on the organics composting, we have composting facilities on island, and the trend for DOD properties is that none of their green waste leaves the property. They actually compost on site, and we provide the permits for them to do so. The only thing that I think that would, really we need to tighten up on is that food waste component, and trying to partner, with hotels and restaurants and the 3 large industries that produce the food waste as we conducted the study by Jacobs. Those industries partnering up with either Edible Food, which is going to be some nonprofit organization for human consumed foods, and also farmers with livestock for foods that are not, I guess, able to be consumed by humans. And then, of course, the composting facilities for foods that can be eaten by either livestock or human consumption.
But on another note, you should mention the on the grassroots level, we're
Yeah.
doing the
So-
with the Swifter
Yeah.
grant.
So Guam EPA was also awarded a Swiffer grant, and we partnered up with the Guahan Sustainable Cultures, who's conducting household composting training along with community gardens, and we're in the second phase of it.
It's
So
ongoing.
so it's ongoing. The second phase is, of course, started in January, looking for 200 participants to participate in the data collection component of that. You know, what's coming up really quick is the uh, construction and demolition debris processing facility and construction demolition debris diversion policy. Those two phases are in phase 5. Those tasks are in phase 5, and it's, you know, it's projected to have started in 2033 to 2036. But there's some industries that are moving way quicker than the zero waste initiatives, which is great.
Their timeline.
So, you know, these timelines can actually be pushed forward because we do have a diversion policy. All the clearing and grading, construction and demolition debris permits that go through one stop goes to Guam EPA as well. And then on the solid waste management portion of it, they fill out a solid waste disposal plan that identifies the project, the waste type, the generation, the volume, the disposal site, and the transporter. And all these sites need to be permitted with Guam EPA. And then at the end, once we approve the plan and the construction or development is complete, Guam EP inspects for occupancy, at which time they provide disposal receipts to the agency to complete the occupancy inspection. So these things are in place already. The construction demolition debris diversion policy is tied to that solid waste disposal plan. So there's 3 solid waste management facilities that processes construction demolition debris right now. And this is not anything that we're forcing them to do. They actually started doing them because the military started, diverting a lot of their waste streams as per their mandates. And we started this diversion policy really during Conchita's time when the ORDOT dump was burning every year. So we tried to divert as much as the recyclables from the ORDOT as well. I mean, as best as possible, which opened up composting during ORDOT shortly after, right across Manhita Farms. And Northern Hartfield was one of the first that started the composting facilities on island. But those, I think, are, we need to take a look, and maybe the group needs to take a look at the initiatives that are in place right now. They're low hanging fruit, and to, try and reschedule
Move it up.
the different components in terms of when it should start, and because there's some that's already in place. The mandatory recycling in government, commercial buildings and public spaces. We do have a GovGuam Recycles program that we had a number of years. I think it's just a matter of resurrecting that program and pulling everybody in and sharing with them their responsibilities in terms of mandatory government recycling. I just wanted to share those with you, and maybe it's something that the group can discuss in terms of shifting, some of these initiatives around and getting the ones that are already in place so that, it's a low hanging fruit.
I'd just like to add, thank you, Glenn, and I hear Sabrina in the background for that update. A master plan is exactly that. It's a long-term plan, a dynamic process that identifies projects that need to be implemented to form a program. And there's lots of different moving parts. I'm excited to hear about some of the other things that are going on. Sometimes things move out of the projected sequence because of demand, which is certainly happening on Guam, and things move up in the process. Some things fall back. We have, in addition to all the moving parts and pieces with policy and regulatory initiatives and implementation that Guam EPA is working on, the Port Authority with their zero waste blueprint within their sustainability plan is also implementing a pilot project on environmentally preferable purchasing. It's a great pilot project to work on because the port is a semi-autonomous agency, and they do work with other Guam agencies, but it's easy to establish metrics for them and measure. And if it works well there, we'll be able to make suggestions for other agencies in Guam. So just a few of the things that are going on.
Yes, Julie, in regards to environmentally preferred purchasing, that actually there's actually a law that's in place. It's under GSA really. And the
Long time
enforcement,
ago.
the enforcement arm on that is actually Guam EPA, to ensure that, they're doing preferred purchasing, greener products. And I think it's just a matter of just, getting with the agencies that it applies to and saying, hey, we see that, we have an environmentally preferred purchasing. It's a law. Is there, what is it that you guys are doing and how is it that we can help? And, continue on, because I know that GSA purchases some, environmentally preferred products, some green
do.
products. They're kind of pricey, but it's not a large inventory that they hold. But maybe we need to just ask the question, what do you have, and how can we help? And
that's what we started doing. And I would say this is it's just a great example of the importance of public education and outreach, because it's not just reaching out to the general public, it's reaching out to our agency personnel and educating them. So I think that's something that we could focus on as well.
Thank you for that, and being mindful of the time. It is now 10:48. We have a little more time. There is one thing that we do not assume many things except for this. We assume that everyone's time is limited. So the goal is to stay within 1 hour or less in these meetings. I want to focus on a couple of things that I heard from Guam EPA to make it clear. First of all, the Port Authority of Guam has their sustainability and resilience plan. We'd like to be able to have access to the zero waste component of that plan. If we can get that, even if it's that summary, Joe, if we can get that's like 15 or to 20 slides that summarizes that document, because we understand
Sure.
that document is huge. At least get that available. I'm hearing from Glenn and Sabrina that with the Guam Sustainability, they've been, their project is underway with respect to work with farmers in the community on community gardens and composting. You're going into phase 2. Is there a report that maybe could be shared with the members, with the community, their
Yeah,
effort?
so-
Is there also I know they're doing training. They've been doing some training. Is there a training plan available that can be made available to anyone that wants to start something? So
Yeah,
instead of
we can-
paying
we can
somebody else to do the work, it's already there.
Yeah, we can provide that information. We also have on our website some of the composting guidelines that we have. I forgot to mention, but actually, Senator Sabina Perez is she submitted a update on the composting. Right now the bill is still in its draft forms, but basically under um, 22 GAR, Chapter 23, they identify, composting and the exemptions of composting. And basically it's, states that, no more than 3 households can compost. So they're kind of exempted from obtaining permits. So
Yes, very
she's expanding that definition to also include farmers and businesses who may be managing their green waste on site, provided it does not exceed a certain volume, so that this compost, they can benefit from composting at that level as well, and not be required to obtain any permits. But also in the bill, it says that if they start collecting from outside of what they generate and they charge, they may have to get a permit as well. So it's kind of like rolling along, and these are gaps that I saw. Businesses were composting, and short of getting a composting permit, I think this bill and the language that proposes that exemption will benefit a larger community of composters who want to do the right thing and manage their green waste and create compost for their personal use.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. And you mentioned Senator Perez's bill, the draft bill. So I want to circle back to what I said before, that one of our what's in the contract is regarding rules and regulations. If there is something that Guam EPA would like us to take a look at, please talk to BSP. It is in our contract that we can provide that. The other thing too is developing regulations. So you mentioned things on organic and food composting. If there's something you want us to maybe help develop, we can do that as well. Same thing with construction and demolition debris diversion. But I'll always repeat this over and over again. Please let BSP know what you would like us to take a look at. And once BSP gives us the green light, we will review. The sooner we can get this information, the better product we can provide. And I'm always reminding everyone, because I'm reminded all the time, that this contract terms out on July 16, 2025. And on that, the time is 10:50.
Conchita,
Yes, sir.
when you say the contract July 2025, what exact contract are you talking about?
Lola, if you could please.
Yeah, so we did an RFP, request for proposal for professional services for the Zero Waste Working Group. And so that particular funding source, the obligation obligation date would be September or July, the date that Conchita mentioned. It's a state and local.
I'm sorry, that's to enter into the contract?
No, it is actually to complete the contract. We
And
would just,
I'm sorry, who is that contract with?
Is Bureau of Statistics and Plans, and Eniton was the awarded vendor for that contract.
Okay,
It's a professional services and technical support to address Guam Zero Waste Initiatives was the name of the request for proposal.
and you're saying that contract ends in July 2025?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And then is it going to go out for a new contract?
If there are additional resources that have been identified, we could extend the contract beyond that date.
And I assume this is based on maybe federal funds?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I just wanted to touch before Conchita wraps up. If there are funding opportunities, because one of the areas that we also wanted to explore and Anita and Oceana to explore was scholarship programs. You know, with certification with the Guam Trades Academy in areas to include solar photovoltaics, sustainable construction, weatherization, building auditor, wind energy, alternative energies. So yeah, if there are other funding opportunities, I also want to tap into Guam Energy Office to see if there's something there that we can explore so that we can also explore providing scholarships for individuals to enter into these fields and get their training through the Guam Trades Academy.
And Conchita,
Yes, sir.
I just want to also ask, in our meeting last April, 2024, a couple of things that were brought up had to do like with the bottle bill and with tires.
Okay.
Are those issues still being looked at? Since I didn't hear anything mentioned about those today. I know the Lieutenant Governor specifically brought up the tires during that meeting. And I think Mr. Perrin brought up the issue of the bottle bill and a factory to deal with plastics, since apparently there's no place for plastics to go off island. I just want to add those to maybe our next meeting agenda to talk about.
I'll do, and we'll also work with Guam EPA, because I know that there were studies done with respect to tires, part of the Greening Roadways guidance document. And then in terms of the bottle bill, I know this was initially this was a law that was authored by Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes. I know
some time ago.
Yeah, and that Guam EPA developed the regulations for this. Where this is now, you know, again, we'll work with Guam EPA. So during the next meeting, we can put this on the agenda on the status and what we can do on this, okay?
Thank you.
And for DPW, again, I want to thank you for partnering with the port and FHWA. So Lola mentioned funding opportunities. That's a classic example of you know, working together. DPW and because they are the primary contact for FHWA, and they're working with the port on working, you know, getting a plastic road or road with plastic resin in it. I know that the port also worked with Guam EPA for the Clean Ports Grant. And so many hands make light work, okay? And if you know of a grant that we could potentially partner with another entity, you know, please share that with BSP. Everything goes through BSP, go through Lola and Esther Camacho. We will provide notes to this meeting and make it available to all the members, as well as making it available online. We are a transparent group. And on that note, if we can get potentially some closing remarks from the first gentleman and Lola Leon Guerrero. Thank you very much.
Well, for me, I just want to thank everybody. There was a lot of excellent information. And I'm sorry I may be a little confused about things like contracts, but I mean, we're talking about doing years of work here, and but a contract that ends in July. So obviously, I guess the call out for finding funding sources is very important. I know just recently I was in Palau, and Palau is really moving along and dealing with a clean environment. So I know we can do the same. So thank you for everybody.
Thank you, first gentleman. Lola, before you go on, just as a reminder, we agreed that that we will have this once a month meeting. It'll always be the last Tuesday of the month, 10 a.m. We're looking at April 29th. Again, we'll send this as part of our follow-up email and the summary. But if you could just calendar that and let us know if you can participate or if you're going to send a designee. Okay, so Lola, if you could close, thank you.
Yes, well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and this is the inaugural meeting. It's great that we have NET and Oceana to provide that administrative and technical support to this group. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone. And of course, if there are funding opportunities that will benefit what was mentioned on this call, can you please share that with myself? And then so that we can, you know, explore those funding opportunities so that we can submit the grants. Thank you.
It is now 11 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Hey, bye-bye.
Everybody have a good day.
Okay.
Too.